that stat sound familiar? That's the same percentage range that heterosexual men say they reach orgasm. The orgasm gap is real and it's a problem. And it is not because of anatomy, it is because of culture. So what is the orgasm gap? Well, it's where 85 to 95% of heterosexual men say that they usually or always reach orgasm during partnered sexual encounters with a heterosexual woman. Now, on the other hand, heterosexual women only report having an orgasm in partnered sex with a heterosexual man about 55 to 65% of the time. Now, if this gap was because there's anatomical differences between men and women that make it more difficult for someone with female anatomy to have an orgasm, we would see similar statistics in solo sex masturbation. But we don't. I'm Lauren Consul. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist specializing in sex and relationship issues. So let's get into it. Heterosexual women report during solo sex, during masturbation, that they reach orgasm 85 to 95% of the time. Does that stat sound familiar? That's the same percentage range that heterosexual men say they reach orgasm during partnered sex. So what gives? It's not anatomy, it's not biology, it's cultural. And there's so many factors that go into this. Now, one significant barrier to women's sexual satisfaction lies in societal stigmas and judgments around female sexuality from an early age. I think really from birth. Women are shamed for embracing their sexual desires, being sexual, exploring their bodies. Women are called sluts for engaging in the very same acts that their male counterparts are engaging with them. And this conditioning instills feelings of inadequacy or fear or shame about being sexual and can create reluctance to communicate their needs and desires to their partner for fear of what that means about them, what people will think about them, what their partner will think about them. It may even prevent them from really even learning about their own bodies. Shame is a really powerful feeling. Now, on top of that, our sex education systems fall woefully short in adequately educating individuals about the female body and anatomy. Many are unaware of the basic anatomical structures, such as the difference between a vulva and vagina, where the clitoris is, that pee doesn't come out of the vagina. Sex education focuses on reproduction and typically only focuses on the internal reproductive organs of female anatomy, the uterus, the fallopian tubes, the ovaries, which are all important structures. But what about the external parts? The vulva, the opening to the vagina, the labia, the clitoris. The clitoris is the only organ that its only function is for pleasure. That's amazing. And yet we don't learn about this. And this lack of understanding and education perpetuates misconceptions and inhibits sexual fulfillment. Another factor is the pervasive myth perpetuated by media and erotica, societal norms, is the emphasis on penetrative sex as the epitome of sexual satisfaction. We can also link this back to Freud. Right? However, only about 20% of women can orgasm from penetration alone. And this is actually often because women who are able to orgasm just from penetration alone have a clitoris that is a little bit closer to their vaginal opening. So it's thought that their clitoris is getting more stimulation during penetrative sex. So it may not just be penetration alone. Now, most women, because of this statistic, only 20% can have an orgasm from penetration alone, are going to need some sort of clitoral stimulation in order to orgasm. Another barrier I see is foreplay, which is often portrayed in movies as just a few minutes and then you can go right to penetration and then there's this great orgasm and you come together and it's all great. And really, most women need more foreplay, more warm-up time to get there. Right? Men, on average, can orgasm between 8 to 10 minutes. Most women take 20 to 40 minutes to orgasm. And part of that is this warm-up time. But if we only think of foreplay as this 5 minutes before sex, if that, it's doing a disservice and it's only widening the orgasm gap. Now, the orgasm gap is not an insurmountable biological inevitability, but rather a reflection of the cultural barriers that hinder women's sexual empowerment. By recognizing and addressing these barriers, we can strive towards a more equitable and fulfilling sexual landscape for all genders. So it's time to bridge the gap and pave the path to orgasm equally.